So, have you ever sat there wondering to yourself as to exactly why every game that you're playing recently has just female blacksmiths thrown around everywhere? Have you ever wondered to yourself why female warriors, why women who are these expert computer smiths, right? These cyber smiths, whatever. These women who are just very effective within some realm of endeavor that a man typically is very effective within? Well, I've been having these questions for quite a while now as well. For a while, we didn't have any answers, but of course, it's very interesting that you always notice the same blueprint being played out in every single game that you pick up, right? You pick up one game, female blacksmith. You pick up another game, female blacksmith. Then it's another game, female mechanic. And something else to notice is you play a game where the world is set within a white culture, a white world, white people. And for some reason, you just keep on happening to notice that there's other races of people thrown into a very European or very Anglo-Saxon world or story. Well, why is that? Why is that there's so much forced diversity into white games? And why is it that male roles are so often being placed onto women in games? And why is it, in fact, that we don't really get any more effeminate women in games anymore? Really, the last time that we got a lot of games that had effeminate women was pretty much before 2015. So nowadays, isn't it odd that the women have grown increasingly ugly? That for some reason, the women have become increasingly more manly, masculine. Isn't it interesting how these games always virtue stack or virtue layer their female characters, specifically female leaders, right? This chick is super smart. She's super strong too. Oh, also everybody immediately listens to her because she has a plan. And have you noticed how interesting it is how they know everything about anything? That, oh, apply the pressure here on a wound, but only do it when you have a 5-degree burn or else you might drop over and die, right? When you're giving someone aid. Well, and whatever else you can come up with that they just know it all about with all the little stipulations to add to their virtue layering. Well, today I am going to show to you Sweet Baby Inc., who has been working on quite a few games recently. And this right here, this is their website. So these are the announced projects. Keep that in mind. These are the announced projects that they've worked on. So let this be clear. There are many other games that they've worked on. These are the games that they're telling you that they've worked on. Sweet Baby Inc. started in 2018. I'm actually not entirely certain if they put it on this page, but they started in 2018. Of course, they've been working on games since then. Very odd that such a random upstart organization is having so much influence on so many big games. So what are these games? And keep this in mind, they've worked on games like Gotham Knights, and this will not show up in the list. There are many games that they've worked on. Alan Wake 2. They worked on character arc, voice, and sensitivity reading. They worked on, in case you were wondering why God of War Ragnarok emasculated Kratos so much and why the game was so trash and woke, they worked on narrative and character consultation with a focus on representation. So you're telling me that random pig that Freya was so upset that got shot by Atreus with an arrow in the first game, and then was randomly, for some reason, he was revived and brought back as a black guy in God of War Ragnarok, a Nordic game. Some random black dude who was a dead boar. Now apparently he's back. Interesting. I wonder if this focus on representation here, wonder if that had anything to do with it. And of course, you can think of characters like Bertha and whatnot, changing that from a white woman to a black girl. Interesting. They've worked on games like Battle Shapers. They've worked on games like Breeze, Usual, whatever the frick that is. Who knows how to frickin' even read that off? What, June? Goodbye, Volcano High. These are random games that really don't mean much. They look like Xbox games though, like Xbox indie games. Sable, Spider-Man 2. Interesting. Why was MJ so ugly in that game? And why was she so masculine? And why was she always talking down to and emasculating Peter? That's interesting. And why were they so intent on replacing Peter Parker with Miles Morales? Interesting. Wonder if their story consultation has anything to do with that. And more. Suicide Squad. Kill the Justice League, right? That recent game that was so much fun and had a wonderful story that was awful. and had, what was it, 5 female writers out of, 11 or whatever. Interesting that in many of those female writers, by the way, were, guess what? Script writers. We worked on script writing, banter, cutscenes, sparks. What the frick is sparks? Audio logs, etc. Still probably also the lore bits in the game as well, because that was woke. Interesting. So I wonder if there's a reason why the banter was so insufferable, why it read off like women writing, where there's just needless drama, people just keep blabbering things without meaning anything by what they're blabbering. It's just literally words to fill in empty space. I wonder, very odd, I wonder if the script writers, who were women, who were doing a terrible job, whoever these script writers were, I wonder if Sweet Baby Inc. working on script writing for this game affected anything with the dialogue and how terrible the writing was, including the cutscenes, and how illogical and how woke, right? Turning Harley Quinn into a fangirl of just women in general, but also just a raging simp for Wonder Woman. I wonder if Sweet Baby Inc. had anything to do with that. I wonder if they also had anything to do with turning Poison Ivy from a sexy woman into a child. Yes, I wonder if they had any influence on that. They also worked on The Crew Motorfest. They also worked on South of Midnight. Again, I don't really know what these games are. And they also worked on however the heck, Lost Your Marbles, yeah. And they, of course, full game development. Wow, they worked on that, all of it. They worked on story development, script writing, cultural and character consultation. And proofreading and additional writing on Crew Motorfest. So as you can see, these are just a couple of games that they've told you that they've worked on. They've also worked on games like Gotham Knights. They've worked on other ones outside of that. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, I see that these are only the limited games they're telling us about. They started up not too long ago, and they've gotten huge work. Interesting. A lot of companies, they really, you do wonder to yourself, first and foremost, what are the qualifications of these people? Well, nobody knows. What's the qualification of this company? Nobody knows. How is it that a 2018 company worked so quickly on big budget games like God of War Ragnarok, like Alan Wake 2, like Suicide Squad, like Spider-Man? You might be wondering to yourself, okay, this is all we're seeing here. How did they get here? And also, in so little time, of course, 2018, they've been working on huge games by the time of, well, before 2020. So what more are they working on? And what's a good indicator of what more are they working on? Because they're not listing everything here. Well, we have their clients. And we have Xbox Game Studios. We have Electronic Arts. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Why is it that in a game with Cal Kestis did we randomly throw in a black woman as a Jedi Master? Interesting. Shouldn't that be like a man, right? Who's the master of Cal Kestis? And shouldn't that man probably be white because, just the demographics of Star Wars and also just Cal Kestis? Interesting that totally seems organic that they just threw in a black woman who happens to be Deborah Wilson, who happens to end up in a lot of games that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on. Interesting. Well, Electronic Arts. And we've seen the way that EA has gone with many of their games past the game I mentioned, which is Jedi Fallen Order. Valve's not really making games, so they're consulting on other woke elements of Valve. We could come down to a few, but True WV, I have no idea who they are. Santa Monica Studios, okay. 2K, Ubisoft. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why Ubisoft has grown increasingly woke over time. And they've always kind of tried to give themselves a bit of a woke liberal shield, but as you notice, recently, if you've been playing a lot of recent Ubisoft games, they have a big thing for female warriors, female merchants. You go look throughout history, women were not merchants, and especially in war-torn areas, makes no sense that a woman would ever be a merchant at all. She would be a political prisoner. So interesting. Ubisoft seems to really like their female type of blacksmiths, merchants, and also, of course, putting in a Nordic setting, random Asian people. That's interesting. And also, if you pay attention to some of their other games, like Watch Dogs, or of course, we could talk about recently, Skull and Bones. And now on the cruise ships, for some reason, there's just an equal proportion of white and black crewmates who also happen to randomly be men or women. And it's literally a comical slider of 50-50. You look at one person, it's going to be the next type of person the next second. Interesting. Wonder if that has, I wonder, right? If Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement has anything to do with Ubisoft becoming increasingly woke, and now Ubisoft has an indoctrination waiver that you have to agree to before you play their games. You as the customer, for some reason they're telling you how to play their games. Interesting. Square Enix. Interesting. I wonder why they put a gay guy in Final Fantasy 16. That's very odd. That was very, very inorganic. I would totally make sense that prince would have had a princess. Oh, no. Randomly a gay dude. And I wonder why the women don't really look that attractive and why a lot of them look like they're on menopause. I wonder in Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, interesting. And of course we can talk about many of the other games that within Square Enix has gotten progressively woke, including Tomb Raider, Warner Brothers. We already know quite enough about that. Finji, whoever the heck you are, Polytron, Rocksteady. Interesting. I wonder why they've been girl bossing so many female characters recently with Gotham Knights and Sui Squad. And I wonder why. Why is it that Talia al Ghul, this very attractive female, was completely zipped up and somewhat uglified in Gotham Knights? I wonder why they don't make women as voluptuous as they used to be, including Harley Quinn in Sui Squad. I wonder why the women just don't look as attractive as they used to. That's interesting. Why do they all look like Karens? Very interesting. Co-op. Okay, cool. I don't know who the heck they are. Some image. Okay, so there's somebody. Compulsion Games. Okay, got it. ME, Chance Agency, Avalanche Studios Group. I forget what games they worked on. I'm gonna have to look that up. But Deck 9, Brass Lion Entertainment, Wizards. Is that Of the Coast? They worked on that Dungeons and Dragons game, right? That was a complete crap show. I think that's what they worked on. Maybe I'm forgetting exactly what it was. Nereal, People Can Fly. Yep, I remember playing one of their games recently, and that was oddly woke. Echo Software, 2V Productions, Glitch, Remedy, a P logo, whatever the heck you are, Raw Fury, and Fellow Traveler. So these right here, this is their clients. Some of them you recognize, some of them you don't. A lot of these, of course, Xbox Game Studios is right here at the top. A lot of these do happen to work with Xbox Studios. So that's interesting. It's like, I've been noticing it's quite odd that for some reason, Xbox games have been getting increasingly woke and crappy. And that includes Gears of War. And you could also say, of course, Halo. And yes, Sweet Baby Inc. started in 2018, but it's very clear that ESG has had influence on many of these games and game studios far before Sweet Baby Inc. And I'm going to say this right now, without a doubt, there are sister organizations that we don't know about that are doing the same work. All right, this is just another name for ESG. Look at a game like recently I've been playing, Diablo 4. For some reason, everywhere you go, the majority of blacksmiths are, well, you would expect men, right? Because all throughout history, men were the blacksmiths. Interesting. And by the way, they have the upper body strength required for doing blacksmithing. Anyway, interestingly enough, they're all women. Interestingly enough, we have commander women, captain knight women, we have reverend women, we have women who are religious authorities over men who answer to them. You have women who are war strategists as well, on top of being religious authorities. Interestingly, something about the Bible is that women are not to be leaders over especially men, but they're not to teach a congregation. That is not their role. So interesting that you put in a game that's based on Catholic themes and Catholic concepts. It's interesting that you keep on throwing these women around in male roles. And it's also interesting, you will notice in many of these games, including Diablo 4, but you also notice in a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for some reason, the women have very large biceps in muscular definition. Something very uncharacteristic throughout history. All throughout history, even now, women do not have muscle definition equal to that of a man. But for some reason, when you take a look at many of the male character models to the female character models, you will notice a lot of muscular definition on women in many of these games. And yes, Blizzard, they're not labeled here, but yet They play by a very definitive blueprint, and that blueprint has shown its way into games like Diablo 4. And maybe they did work on Diablo 4, and that's one of the games we're not being told about, because they're not telling us about many other games that they've worked on, including, of course, Gotham Knights. But it's quite interesting, isn't it? That you see many of these different themes that you see in a white area, for instance, a white region. For some reason, you see within that region a black female leader, religious leader as well. Isn't that interesting? It's like, well, these are white people, and it would make sense if the leader of these people was a white guy, right? Some kind of white religious leader, right? A reverend man. No, it's a woman, and she happens to be black, and also, interestingly enough, bald. And that's also another sort of element that you might notice in a lot of these ESG games. A lot of bald women or women that don't really have long hair. I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that men like women with long hair. So anyways, of course we can read this off here too. This is underneath projects. We love making games no matter the size or scope, and we're always excited to help you tell the best story possible. Interesting. Interesting that all the games that they worked on and all the stories that they've worked on, well, they never ended up being the best story possible. Actually, in fact, they've ended up deconstructing many characters that we know and love, and they've destroyed many stories and characters that we know and love. That you're spending, by the way, very high dollar, top dollar for some of these games. $70? $70? 60 or 70? When did they do the $70 tag? I believe this was $70. Interesting. Very interesting. And of course, for some reason, who's watching you? So we have these eyes down here, and I guess they really want you to contact them for what? Like, who? Let's be honest. And this is one of the weirdest things about this website. None of your clients came to this website and said, click here to contact us. So why is this down here and why is it so big? There's something very odd about the entire UI and design. Doesn't seem like this is a very legitimate organization. If you actually think about it, doesn't seem like an organization that would work with top studios in the industry. This is a very quickly put together website. Many people can figure out how to do a website like this. And again, they're saying, click here to contact us. Well, why? Why would we contact you? Because, right, we're not going to be the client. These clients did not come out of their way to contact you unless, of course, you have insider contacts, right, within ESG, which is, of course, associated with BlackRock, which is, of course, associated with the government. Interesting. Which is, by the way, a lot of it's funded by taxpayer dollars. Interesting. So we have outreach here. New and marginalized talents can change this industry if given the proper support. We want to provide this through our outreach programs. Oh, good. Outreach programs. Because that's going to, right? That's meritocracy. That's going to get a good job done, right? This is one of the things that they're centered on. Industry reform. From opaque industry practices to a lack of entry-level roles. We understand the overwhelming challenges that come with finding a space in games. No, there is no problem. It's, are you good at your job? Nothing within the gaming industry has anything to do with finding your space. It is only down to whether or not you can do the job and provide a quality product that is worthy of people buying it, especially when people are spending top dollar. That is far greater than a movie ticket or a subscription service to some kind of television platform. We firmly believe that open communication, compassion, and the fostering of new talent are vital to transforming the games space into a kinder, more collaborative industry. Interesting. So right here, there is no such thing as open communication, compassion, that fosters new talent to transforming games in the game space into a kinder, more collaborative industry. It's about doing your job. It's about doing a good job. It's about providing a quality product. Open communication is a great way to have too many meetings in a studio that's developing a game to waste time instead of getting a job done. Open communication is a stupid idea compared to effective, action-oriented, results-oriented communication. And compassion. Compassion has nothing to do with game development because there is nothing you have to feel for someone else. It's, you're working on the game. We have to make a good product. We have to make a good experience for the customer. Nobody cares about how you feel. Get the job done. We need to earn the freaking paycheck. That's what it comes down to. But this is very key. They want to transform the game's space into a kinder, more collaborative industry. Interesting. Interesting that you want to make it kinder when that has nothing to do with getting a job done. And in fact, now you are assuming that people are apparently douchebags, or that you yourself are not the douchebags. And judging by the games that they've been making so far, they've been destroying many games. And in fact, many of their games are very corrosive towards the common male audience. Very interesting. A more collaborative industry. Collaborative. That sounds like a what's that idea there? What's collaborative? What does collaborative sound like for people like these who have no business being in an industry, who don't have any qualifications, and they're ruining games that they are muddling with? Sounds very commie-like. Sounds very communist. Sounds very socialist. Sounds very central planning oriented. Sounds like you want to control the industry. And your word for it is collaboration. Interesting. The industry is far from where it needs to be. Oh, interesting. That looks like that's a line written directly by an activist, an ideological warrior. But we believe it can get there with shared resources. Remember that thing about communism, socialism, central planning? Interesting. Where are you getting these shared resources? How are you accruing them? How are you claiming the ownership over shared resources? Are people just giving it to you willingly? Are these companies giving it to you willingly? Did the taxpayer who's giving money to ESG, did they give it willingly? Yeah, it's very easy to have shared resources when you're taking the money from other people. Diverse talents. Diversity now. So instead of effective, quality, skillful talent, diverse talent, which just means, okay, what's diversity? All right, so let's hire a crappy guy. Let's hire a guy that's really great at his job, and let's put them both in the same industry. And basically, the guy that's great at his job, he's gonna have to pick up all the slack of the crappy guy. More realistically, a woman. And ultimately, what ends up happening with diverse talent is that you are hiring people with lower qualifications than other people for the sake of diversity. And as we've seen with these games recently, they've been lowering in their quality and their value. They've been losing their relevancy, and ultimately the products are trash because they're woke. And transparent industry dialogue. Interesting. Transparency is a very odd word by, admittedly, socialist/communist activists. Transparency. That's almost a word for these activists that is to be associated with surveillance. Let's be transparent with one another within our industry dialogue, which means we're going to track everything that you say, every word that is uttered, and we are going to cancel the men that do a good job within the industry, right? Think of things like Gamergate. You can think of things like that. Interesting that all of a sudden, a lot of effective workers within the industry, they're suddenly gone. Suddenly, there's a lot of ideological hiring going on. Why is it that everyone in the gaming industry is a liberal? That's very odd, because there's plenty of people who are not liberal, and they would love to get a job at different studios. But for some reason, they just don't cut it. It's very interesting. It's very interesting that all the writers end up being far leftists. It's interesting that the game designers are overwhelmingly leftists. Transparent industry dialogue almost sounds like you want to know what people are saying and when they're saying it so that you can control them, which has a lot to do with a collaborative industry. So it's good to know. It's good to know. We're looking at industry reform right here. Okay. And then right here they say, here's how we can support you. Oh, talk to us. Talk to you about what? You don't have any qualifications. You guys showed up out of nowhere. Okay. Portfolio reviews. By the way, you click on these things. Doesn't lead you anywhere. Workshop and Q&As. Dedicated mentorship programs. Oh, sounds like indoctrination programs, especially given your political alignment. Yep, we can click here. We occasionally set up entire projects with the purpose of letting mentors and mentees build something together as they learn and share knowledge. We're not running one of these at the moment. Interesting. But can let you know when it happens. Yeah, this is also something that's interesting, is that I get the sense when I was previously looking at this website, it almost seems like they're defunct. They haven't stopped their work, but it seems like Sweet Baby Inc. might be defunct, or something's going on with them. Again, they're not gone. Keep that in mind. There's many sister organizations, but this is the only organization that most people know about right now. The sister organizations, people mostly don't know about them. But of course, you can click here. Let's connect. You can, of course, go down here. You can look at their workshops. You can look at their portfolio reviews. Actually, let's take a look at that. Interesting. So, building your first writing portfolio for games. A very friendly guy. Oh my gosh, dude. Very, I don't know why the frick do you have to say a very friendly guide? Okay, fine, whatever. With Amy Shaw. I met Amy when we were working on Suey Squad, Kill the Justice League, and she was a joy to work with every day. Well, your dialogue wasn't a joy to work with every day. Bringing energy. Oh, really? Does she? Is she really energetic? A lot of people that you want to like are very energetic, especially when they share your ideological activist tendencies, inspiration, and a huge talent. Obviously, we were already big fans of her. Interesting. Fangirls. Kim Belair. Belair? Oh, who cares about her name? She's the CEO. Oh, I bet she's really effective at her job. But when I saw Amy's portfolio, I was genuinely blown away. With what? You guys made a trash. What's a portfolio? Okay, post it here then. Love of God. What you guys made, Suey Squad, has the worst writing that myself and many others have ever seen in gaming. Especially by Rocksteady. Especially by their standards. Which, by the way, Rocksteady, who worked for Rocksteady in the past, men. Interesting. Very interesting. Not only did it show off her writing and narrative design skills. Love of God, let's just glaze people who do a bad job, why don't we? But it demonstrated an understanding of how games are made more broadly and of the different elements it takes to get a story across. Wow, you guys don't know anything about what you're talking about, but yes, let's use these placeholder terms and words to fill in for the fact that we're terrible at our work. Her writing sample has become a document I return to a lot when helping folks get their portfolio together. Okay, there's so many issues with that. We know that she's a hack, but she has a writing sample that you use as a document that you return to a lot in capital letters when helping folks get their portfolio together. So we've asked her to tell us a little about how she made it. Love of God. Okay, now this is just getting facepalm worthy. Like I'm actually cringing. Oh, look at that. The baby Q&A and that really liberal character design right there. Discuss the differences between a narrative. Okay. All right, let's see. Hey, I'm Amy. I've worked in games, TV, and film for a good few years now, and last November I became a junior writer at Rocksteady Studios, and you failed at your job, and you literally killed Rocksteady. This is what happens, guys, when you hire women. A few months before that, I built my own writing portfolio for the first time, and apparently you sent it to a fellow feminist that's going to glaze you like crazy on their website. There was a lot of trial and error, and it sometimes felt a bit daunting, but eventually I found a rhythm. Gosh, bro, this is freaking cringing right now. Found a rhythm that really worked for me, allowed me to have a lot of fun, and I didn't have any fun with your writing, and produced a document that I'm extremely proud of. Some other people really liked it too. Yeah, most people didn't. And so the mysterious forces over at Sweet Baby Inc. asked me to put together a guide. Oh wow. Yeah, I bet that's really going to help them lose money for anybody who might be in the process of creating a portfolio of their own. What good is a portfolio when you're crap at your job? If that sounds like you, then hello, welcome, hi. Okay, you said that 3 times. I hope you get something from what I say. Table of contents, the plan. See, this is the issue with these people. They're going to do all this busy work, writing out all of this, the plan, their table of contents, all this random, needless writing for acting like you have any kind of a plan. And then you see what they've made. And it's absolute dog water horse crap. This is the problem with this whole idea of these industry professionals, these losers with jobs, children with jobs, adult children who left university, and they spent their entire time within university just wasting their time, right? Making a bunch of useless assignments, writing it all up, adding a bunch of fluff. Then they get into these industries and they make a career out of fluff pieces or wasting your time. Why would you read any of this? This woman is a hack. She is a failure at her job. But yet, for some odd reason, she's going to blabber away in this column telling you how to do your job as a writer. This is the kind of nonsense that we have invited into the gaming industry. How pathetic, man. You look at all of this. This is literally someone blabbering away. And they have no idea, they have no expertise, they have no talent. And yet, look how many words they're using to act like they know what they're doing. Okay, read a little bit more. Okay, so you're ready to build your first portfolio. You open up a blank page, stare at it for an hour because you don't know how to do your job. Because if you actually knew how to do your job, you would not be staring at it for an hour. Before taking a break to watch a documentary on coastal erosion. What does that have to do with anything? Again, people are getting paid for this. It's pretty late, so you just head to bed. Yeah, because you're a loser. Blank pages can be tough, especially when you don't have any creativity and you're only filled with ideological purposes and needs. And really, the only thing that you could have no blank pages about and write for days and days on and on about is transforming an entire industry in your woke image, your ideological activist image. If you struggle with beginnings, you're not the only one. Well, yes, because you have no talent. Not only that, but learning healthy ways to get past it are an important part of writing anything. In this case, the best way to find your first foothold is by doing some research. Research on what? How to do your job? Start by reaching out to people with established reputations. Oh, so outsource your talents. Because you yourself are a hack, just start ringing up a bunch of people on the phone. Hi there, you're actually good at your job. What the frick do I do? What kind of story do I even write? Somehow I'm getting paid for this crap. Great, good to know. Established reputations for nurture and support in games. Yes, these are the terms that you use, by the way, for somebody that doesn't know how to do their job. They need to be nurtured and supported at all times because they're a living adult child, like Sweet Baby Inc. And see if they have any examples of portfolios they'd be happy to share with you. Blah, 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 blah. Lead writer, I was working with Grant Roberts. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Grant. He's talented and meticulous. Okay, so why wasn't he hired instead of you? So I trusted the content of his portfolio. What is the point of a portfolio when you're trash at your job? Just do a good job. You know what your portfolio ever is your work. This is industry insider BS. Portfolio is really, what does a portfolio mean? It just means ideological scorecard. That's all it means. Let's read this over. Do they seem like they are a suitable liberal candidate for this job? Do they seem like they fit our ideological activist ends? That's all a portfolio is. It's a screening test for politics. It's only the work that you do that should ever be your portfolio because it's what you can actually deliver upon. It's what you can actually produce. It's what you can execute. That's what should ever get you hired. This talk about any portfolio. This is silly and pathetic. To be a good baseline for me, I went through his document and broke it down into a skeleton, okay? Into a skeleton. Got it? Doing that helps you to clearly see structure and think about the reasoning behind it. From there, you can start to build your own skeleton. Oh God, this is so stupid. This will be the order of what you include based on how you arrange it. Okay, I don't think we need to read that. She's just rambling. What the frick is your point? You've researched, you've got your document, skeleton, but if this is your first portfolio, any published writing to share, it can feel a bit disheartening. Why? Because you're crap at your job and you're a hack? Especially if you've just read a glorious portfolio full of great lines from a game you know. Yeah, because that person actually has skill. You don't have skill. You should be fired. You shouldn't be in this line of work. Okay. Yeah, that's your first sign, by the way, to get right here. This is your first sign. Get out of the industry. There are people who are better than you, and they will always be better than you. And you destroyed, by the way, you destroyed Rocksteady. So good on you. You're part of the death of the company. The thing is, this is actually a bit of an opportunity. Why not pick a genre you know you're passionate about? Yeah, like killing Batman. I went for spy stuff. Okay, so that has nothing to do with superheroes, and yet you're working on Rocksteady Games. Create your own scenario. Came up with my own awkward spy pal. Of course, it has to be awkward because everyone nowadays in the modern age is autistic. So good, we're hiring an autistic loser. And show off some of your world building skills. This can be the perfect chance to tailor your samples for scenarios. Blah, 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 blah. Literally rambling. Having total control of your content allows you to structure scenarios for your character that show off a wide range of content types. What's barks? I still don't know what barks are. Whatever it is, they did a terrible job at it. Cinematics and banter. Yeah, well, again, you don't know what you're talking about. What the frick? The assembly. Okay, you can really make a world of difference to how enjoyable and understandable your document is by setting yourself some simple formatting rules. We're talking about formatting? Choose a couple of colors. Choose a couple of fonts. Oh my gosh, bro. How about you have some ideas? Choose a couple of ideas instead of formatting rules. This is an industry supposed veteran. She's writing a whole column for Sweet Baby Inc. to act like she knows what she's doing. This is about simple formatting rules. Yes, a child can do this. You're telling me that anyone would hire you? No. Screw formatting here. Have ideas. Screw the formatting. Have ideas. Oh my gosh. Silliness. Decide how you're going to display script fragments, dialogue trees, mission objectives, headings. You have to waste time to figure this stuff out? This is literally common sense stuff. Someone is being paid on the dollar for AAA games to do work that isn't even work. This is busy work. This is fake work. This is a fake job. This person does not have any skills. They are not actually doing their job. They're literally doing the bare minimum into doing their job. Let me guess. You get really tired after working for 2 hours and you have to go for a freaking nap. I would not be surprised to read that in here. It probably could be in here, or maybe she says it in a different interview. Doing all these things makes it much easier for people to open, enjoy, and navigate your work, which can only be a good thing, right? No, because you're not doing your job. Final formatting tip, the simplest, but one that I learned from people in TV. Why did they ever hire you? Actually, always save your portfolio as a PDF. What is this? This whole thing should be about how do you have the skill to legitimize your job? Let's see the writing. Hopefully by now, the bit that seemed most daunting when you were looking at that blank page is actually the most exciting. You've got your own structure, tailor-made content, and now you can just sit back and enjoy creating. That's not how it works. So here's the important thing. Oh my gosh, and by the way, yeah, we saw how that works. Yeah, we've played Sui Squad. Yeah, you really showed the world. So here's the important thing to remember while writing. Context is key. You did a terrible job at that. It's a great idea to begin your portfolio with some short, clear outlines that quickly get your reader up to speed on where they are, what they're doing. Oh my gosh, what the bigger picture is. This is the problem with the industry, is that you have these hacks who place themselves in the position to tell you how to do anything and what to do within creating a good game. You know how many men have done great work within the industry, and they didn't just ramble on about how you do these things and blah blah. They just showed. They didn't speak, they did. Okay? They showed you what they would ever talk about. Just play the Arkham games. It's a masterclass in differing ways in storytelling. How do you set up the pace? How do you set up the start of a story within the first 30 minutes and get a bunch of things done, right? And reel in the player. They knew how to do this because men are better at this job. Then it's up to you to play through your missions for them. What? I'm not even going to break that down because there's so many issues with that. Leading them through your game from example to example with short explanations of how they thread together. In my own portfolio, this is done through a combination of bullet points to describe player actions, blah, blah, blah. Holy crap, bro. The feedback. Yeah, the feedback is you're trash at your job. You should have been fired from day one. Wow. Remember all those lovely people we met in step 1 when we were asking for what the frick? Just forget this check. All right, so that's good. That's good. We just checked out some of what they view a portfolio as. All right, well, we can come up here. Want to get into the industry but don't know where to start? Here are some resources and organizations that can help you find your way. Podcast? Oh, a lot of colored individuals. I wonder if there's a political reason for all these people of color being who you're going to show. And by the way, you click load more, there's nothing else to load. But right here, these are their Q&As for Sweet Baby Inc. But these are the people who have been destroying. They're a part of destroying the industry. And of course, it's very interesting that it seems like it's a woke paragon. Let's click this. I can't even tell if that's a man or a woman. How do you write a good story for a game? Yeah, you're gonna love reading this. The written story of a game is good when it understands where it sits as one piece of a larger whole. Okay, that is not at all what it's about, and you have no idea what you're even talking about because we've literally seen these games made by Sweet Baby Inc. You have no idea what you're doing, and this happens to be absolute horsewater dog crap advice. Basically, coherence trumps a lot of other metrics, in my opinion. Well, it's a good thing that you're very certain about your thoughts about how do you write a good story by saying, in my opinion. There is no such thing as opinion in good storytelling. You just don't know how to do your job. Coherence, by the way, these people are not the masters of coherence. You look at their games and they have incoherent storylines. So it's great to see that Sweet Baby Inc. believes in the people that they're hiring, the people who clearly lack the qualifications and should not be in the industry and are obviously being hired because their diversity points. It's very interesting that someone would even ever say anything like coherence trumps a lot of other metrics. Okay. How do you write a good story for a game? A good narrative arc blends in with other disciplines. What does that even mean? What's your idea of disciplines? Like, you have to define that before you... Whatever. Love of God. These people are just using container words in a harmonious way. Narrative isn't the only department that tells stories. That is the main place that justifies your story. If you don't have a good narrative, nothing else matters. Everything is thrown away with. Music, level design, animation do too. Well, no crap, Sherlock. And it all starts with you knowing how to do your job. You don't know how to do it. You should be fired. Someone else should be hired. The good news with that is that the weight to make people feel something isn't solely on your shoulders. Yes, because you need to outsource your talent and your skill. Talk to people on other teams and ask for their input. Put your trust in them to help you tell the larger story together. Oh, look. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we've seen how great... We've seen how great games and stories by committee. We've seen how well that's worked out in television, movies, and now games. Yes, clearly that works out. And clearly, Sweet Baby Inc. losing many games money is a great example of that. Now, you need a visionary. And it's always been stories by visionaries that have ever done well. If you need to ever outsource your ability to write, you are not a writer. And you are a hack. You should be fired. Someone else should take your job. Because games have so many moving parts. Yes, if you're an idiot, you don't know how to balance the moving parts. So maybe get a different job. Revision truly isn't optional. Yeah, especially when you're trash at your job. You never had an idea in the first place, so of course you need to revise it and probably fix it 30 times over. It's great to have a clear idea of where you want to end up, but if it's too rigid, you might end up with a story that asks the player to buy into something that contradicts what the gameplay is trying to get them to do. None of that matters. Do your freaking job. Literally, this right here doesn't matter. I don't even know why anyone would even ever say something like this. This is actually insane. But if it's too rigid, you might end up with a story that asks the player to buy into something that contradicts what the gameplay is trying to get them to do. Are you so incompetent that you can't even write a story? For people that are not trash at their job, this isn't even a consideration. No part of your writing, there's no such thing as the problem of you're writing and it's going to contradict the gameplay. When you know what to do with your job, your writing fits into what you're writing for. The written story of a game is good when it understands where it sits as one piece of a larger whole. Not for you. You don't even understand how to write for a video game. You just admitted it here. Basically, coherence trumps a lot of other metrics, in my opinion. Clearly, you don't have a single clue about what coherence even means. These people use words and they need to get a dictionary. Right there, that's one of the Q&As. Of course, they have not updated these for a while now. What programs would you recommend for game dev and design? Do not care what you think. How do you handle feedback? How do you know when to take it or not? First and foremost, you're asking someone that should be removed out of the industry. All right, let's see what they say about this. I always feel like feedback is easier to take and incorporate when you're real clear on the integrity and intention behind your story, or the narrative team. Oh god, you look at their dude, these people just blow wind up everyone's freaking anus. Or the narrative team is clear on the integrity, intention, etc. Right? People outside of you, people who can actually do their job. Because every story does have infinite possibilities. Yeah, especially when you're a trash writer. But only some of those possibilities will be right for your story, based entirely on the personality of the characters and their wants, desires, etc. This is some of the most generic crap. This is why you don't hire women, bro. This is why you don't hire freaking diversity hires. This is how I view story anyway. Yeah, you should be fired. But others may have a different approach. Yeah, because they know what they're doing. These things are not even, by the way, these things, not even a question for a legitimate writer. My thinking is that being less tied to outcomes can be helpful? What? My thinking is that being less tied to outcomes can be helpful. So that you're open to the possibility of your character. What? Yo, no. Oh. And the previous person, they were talking about coherence. If you're not tied to the outcomes. Okay. All right, man. And listen, we have many good examples of that within these crappy Sweet Baby Inc. stories. Yeah, being less tied to the outcomes. Yeah, what that ends up doing is creating terrible resolutions and terrible executions of story beats. And we've seen that in God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2. We've seen that in Suicide Squad. Go down the list. By the way, don't forget, there are sister organizations. Organizations who are working on games that you don't know about. And they think exactly like these people do. And of course, ESG is still affecting the games industry as well on their own. Can be helpful, so that you're open to the possibility your character's behaving in a way that suits your overall story intention. No, that is not how you write a character. You do not write a character to behave in a way that suits the overall story intention. Especially because these people, they don't even know what the story's intention is. They're all over the place. These freaking games lately have been bipolar. All over the place. Just 1 second this, 1 second that, rambling and bumbling about in all different ways. Okay? No, your character is your character. And your character remains rigid within who that character is. Fire this person. Oh my gosh. Even if you aren't following the proposed plot. What? Yo. Who is this person? Even if you aren't following the proposed plot to a T. Also, sometimes feedback will just feel wrong because I know these characters, I know this story, and they wouldn't do that, react that way, or this isn't the story I want to tell. Alright, there you have it, guys. Listen, this feels like a shadow crew, right? A shadow freaking group, organization. This is not all the writers. We don't know all the writers behind all this, but those are some of the hack jobs writing with them. They think that a portfolio matters. They think that some lousy outline to your lousy portfolio matters. They don't have any understanding, fundamental philosophical understanding of good storytelling, and they don't understand that's simply talent matched with passion. But most importantly of all, you need talent. If you don't have talent, you're a freaking waste of space. And this is what we get now. We get these people who don't understand how to make a story. They are deconstructionists. They do not live within reality. They do not understand how to make stories. Stories are based and premised within reality. If you cannot make a story that is premised within reality, you're not making a story at all. You are making a lie. And you're making a malicious content of story. All right? And that is what these people, that's what they've been making. This is, of course, right here. This is Sweet Baby Inc. In case you were wondering who they were. This is amazing, just reading what the frick they think they're doing. These are rambling, bumbling idiots. These are people who were complete frauds in whatever place they were in, getting their education. Then they just became industry grifters. These are people who have no idea what they're talking about. These are people who think that a portfolio is apparently a great use of your time instead of just making good work. And that's a great way to get towards making good work. No, a portfolio is just for politics. That will never make a good product. It will never make a good game. It will never make a good story. If you are the type of person that has to write a portfolio, you are a loser. You should be fired immediately. The only portfolio you should have is good work. And this shows to us how misled the industry is. It's the fact that we have games like these now being absolutely deconstructed and destroyed. God of War Ragnarok was a crappy story. It was full of estrogen, full of female writing moments. Alan Wake 2, right? Race swaps. Saga Anderson. A white woman turned into a black woman. Gee, I wonder why that happened, right? I wonder why Deadshot, a white guy, got turned into a black guy in Sui Squad, right? Why did that happen? Nobody knows, except for now. This is pathetic. These people don't even know the 101, the foundational building blocks of making a good story. And what they say is done to make a good story. They don't even know what their own words mean. They will say you need to have coherence, but they don't even know what the word coherence means, especially in terms of storytelling. Who should you be hiring in the gaming industry? Just go look, all right? Go look 10, 15 years ago. That's your answer right there.